We are Midnight Stories. Listen to our stories for your daily sleep ritual. And now, have fun. Last night, I dreamt that Miss Hess was a killer. And that dream has become for me an inspiration for a new comic book. I like to draw. Sometimes I sit down and observe and watch stories unravel around me. The lines of furniture and edges of people around me unwind and untangle and take new form. I just sit and observe. Then I draw. My environment feeds me information which I represent in the pages of my comic book. I guess what I'm trying to say is my comic books are inspired by real-life people and things. So, Miss Hess, she had a great smile on her face in my dream. A great evil smile. It was a diabolical grin, really. The setting was the office of Principal Adams, the nasty old man that ran our school. Miss Hess was perched on his desk, her legs crossed. There was a bloody knife in her right hand. The knife was a premium buck 120, like the one Ghostface used in Scream. Beside her, Principal Adams' head was lying on the desk. At first, it looked like he was taking a nap. Then I noticed the red quickly covering the entire surface of the desk from beneath the principal. Miss Hess pressed her finger to her lips and made the hush sign to me. Her eyes glowed with malice, and her grin made me weak to my bones. She was very scary. And that was remarkably thrilling. As I watch Miss Hess teach, my mind keeps drawing back to my dream. She teaches biology. Today, she's wearing a burgundy puff-sleeve mock dress. In my dream, her hair was a long, straight blonde, but in real life, she styles her hair in a pretty blonde layered bob that really brings out that perfect triangular shape of her face. She was also not wearing her glasses in my dream. Now, her big oval glasses sit pretty on her small nose. She's nerdy yet graceful. She's warm and kind, like the sun. She most definitely did not look like the killer in my dream. My teacher is a serial killer. That's what I'm calling my comic book. It's an idea that I can't wait to start working on. My protagonist will be a class teacher with a chill but intimidating personality in the day, and a professional serial killer at night, picking off her victims with her iconic knife. I notice Miss Hess staring at me. Her lips are moving, but I can't hear a thing. Someone snaps their fingers in my left ear, sending echoes that rang into the depths of my thoughts. Only then do I realize that I've been gone so long, lost in my own head. The snap of the fingers pulled me out of my own head and back into class. When my mind finally joined the class, my ears picked the sound of laughter coming from my colleagues. And I can finally hear Miss Hess, who was actually calling my name the whole time. I stood up, looking guilty. "Where have you been, Ted?" Miss Hess asks earnestly, but with a smile that says, "You're in trouble, young man." And, "Nah, I'm just messing with you." At the same time, I say nothing. "He was thinking of comic books again," Brian said. I looked to my left. Of course it was Brian that snapped his fingers in my ear. He throws a smirk in my face and winks. I give him the fuck off look. "You really love your comic books, don't you?" Miss Hess asked. I say nothing. It's not a bad thing. Just don't get so distant, especially in class. You need to keep your focus. You hear that, Ted? Don't be so distant. And everyone starts laughing again. I have no idea what's so funny. "Sit down, Ted," Miss Hess says and continues her class. As I sit down, I slip right back into my mind. But I don't go too far this time. I could still hear the things going on around me, especially Miss Hess talking about red blood cells. Really, it's the contrast for me. To try and reimagine Miss Hess as a nefarious character seems like a sin in itself. They may have the same face, but Miss Hess could never be that woman in my dream. Intimidating, dangerous, cold. The impossibility of the prospect makes it all the more thrilling for the story. At the back of my notebook, I begin to sketch out the Miss Hess in my dream. At the end of class, while everyone went out, Miss Hess called me to her desk. "Are you all right, Ted?" "Of course." "Are you sure?" "Actually, I'm not all right. I'm 16. I'm dealing with anxiety issues. My parents make it worse because they act like being 16 flew right over their heads. They can't relate with my emotional instability and my social ineptness. I have no one I can call a close friend, and most times I sink into my comic books because I'm more familiar with that world instead of the world where I really live. Sometimes I get so overwhelmed I want to cry or scream, but I can't do any of that. so I allow the feelings to burn inside me and burn from within. I hurt quietly. I just want to float into deep space where there is utter quiet and remain there forever. Totally, I tell Miss Hess. The way she stares at me, I know that she knows I'm bullshitting, but she doesn't push me. If you want to talk about anything, I'm here for you, she says. I smile and leave the classroom. Midnight Stories. At the cafeteria, I bring out my sketchbook and continue with some sketches. On one page, I made a sketch of Miss Hess, my biology teacher, with her nerdy hair and her glasses. On another page, I complete the sketch of Miss Hess, the serial killer in my dreams. The question came to me, like a little temptation. How does someone like my biology teacher become a serial killer? I hate the thought, but as a writer, I can't help but consider the idea. It was such a juicy idea that I began to beam like a fool in the cafeteria at the thought of exploring the idea. My protagonist will start out as a nerdy kind of character, timid but graceful like Miss Hess. And then she'll experience an awakening, a rebirth, if you will. Then she becomes different. She becomes bold, daring, a proper alpha woman with a peculiar lust for blood. Is that Miss Hess? A voice jostled into my brain from behind me. I turned to see Jessica. Weird Jessica, as others call her. She put her food on my table and takes a seat beside me without asking for permission. That irritates me, but I choose to say nothing. You've not answered my question. Why do you have a sketch of Miss Hess? Is it true you're into her? I'm repulsed by the thought. Into her? She's what, late 20s? I'm 16, I say. Jessica chuckles. You poor thing. I ignore her and continue with my work. But Jessica just ignited a chain reaction of thoughts with her question. I've never really thought about what I felt towards Miss Hess. I do admire her a lot. Into her? No, I'm not into my biology teacher. That would be preposterous. You know, I really don't mind the other kids saying I'm lonely. I'm very happy being all by myself, I say, insinuating that she leaves. She ignores my talk. What's with the evil alter ego? You're turning Miss Hess into a villain? Jessica asks. I become bashful, suddenly ashamed of the idea. It's not Miss Hess, I defended myself. Miss Hess is only the inspiration for the character design. That's so. Yes, I'm making a comic book. I roll my eyes at her. She chuckles. Believe me, Miller, I think it's pretty cool. In my conversation with Jessica, I realized we had a lot in common. She was also a teenager, constantly anxious about life and a whole lot of things, navigating all the burdens that came with being on the edge of adulthood. Family pressure, societal pressure, peer pressure, so many pressures. You know, I have a pretty sick idea to help you with your comic book. She clears her throat. Can you keep a secret? I nod. Can you? She asks again, her voice a note louder. I can, I stressed out. In sophomore year, I had a crush on Brian. I even began to stalk him. So what does all this have to do with my comic book? I ask, getting impatient. You say Miss Hess is the inspiration behind your character? Jessica asks. Yeah, stalk her, she says curtly. Stalk who? Stalk Miss Hess, she says smiling. I should stalk my biology teacher? Yes, think about it. I stalked Brian, and look at the big piece of information I got from doing that. When you stalk her, you'll find out things, know things. With your discovery, you can easily make your character more three-dimensional, with more depth. There is reason in what she's saying. After much talking, I agree to do it. It seems like it would be quite the experience indeed. I draft my plan on how to stalk Miss Hess. I'll hide in the bushes by the school parking lot and wait for Miss Hess to come to her car. Once she starts driving, I'll get on my bicycle and follow her car. It's a perfect plan. When school closes, I make my way to the parking lot. I pass the principal's office on my way. I can hear some inaudible sounds, like somebody in there is having a disagreement. I make out what sounds like Miss Hess's voice. This makes me get closer to the door to hear more clearly. I'm able to confirm Miss Hess's voice and the principal's voice. They're both having an argument. I can't quite hear what they're saying, but Miss Hess sounds pretty disturbed. Principal Adams is a cruel man. He's like an older version of Brian. I have a bad feeling he was unnerving Miss Hess. I ran away from the door before my impulses take control of me, because I wanted to break into the office and hold the principal by the neck and punch him. Then I'll say, "Don't ever make Miss Hess sad ever again." I wait in the bushes for several hours. I wait till late in the evening. Every student was having a nap at home by now in their parents' houses. What am I still doing here? I ask myself. I leave my hiding place and slipped into the school halls. I crept towards Miss Hess's office. I hear football as I approach the corner of a hall. I quickly creep back out of the school and back to the bushes to hide. I watch Principal Adam step out of the school towards his car. Minutes later, Miss Hess came out too and trailed behind the principal. From my hiding place in the bushes, I watch Miss Hess pull out a dagger from her handbag. I tilt my head, wondering. The next thing, she buries the dagger deep into the right shoulder of the principal and pulls it out. Principal Adams yells in pain. As he turns, Miss Hess sweeps the dagger into his stomach. It looks like I'm seeing things. This can't be real. "Look what you made me do," I hear Miss Hess say. Her voice was shaky. She seemed truly terrified of what she'd done, and little tears fell off her eyes. Then she pulled out the dagger and pushed it deep into the clear spot on the principal's chest. The principal had stopped yelling already. Now he's just looking at Miss Hess, a dreadful shock all over his face. He can't believe what's happening, just as I can't. Miss Hess kept saying, "Why did you make me do this? Why?" I whisper to myself, "Miss Hess, I wonder if that woman killing Principal Adam is really my biology teacher." "I'm sorry," Miss Hess begins to say, as she pulls out the dagger and slides it inside Principal Adams over and over again. She keeps on muttering amid her tears, "I'm sorry." No, Miss Hess is, and I hate to say this, she's a psycho. A terrible shrill folds around me. I remain as quiet as possible in the bush. When Miss Hess seems satisfied with her doing, she leaves Principal Adams there by his car. She comes to her car and drives away. I wait for some minutes before creeping out of the bushes. I don't bother going to check on Principal Adams. He was definitely dead already. I climb my bicycle and ride home. At home, I contemplate calling the police. But no matter what, I can't bring myself to make the decision. It's Miss Hess. Despite the horror I saw earlier, I'm still worried about her. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for her action. My life has suddenly turned upside down. Is this happening because I drew it? Could Miss Hess have become like that because I drew her into a serial killer? It's an absurd thought, I know, yet I feel guilty. I want to scream. When I wake up the next morning, my state of mind is better. I know what I must do. I need to know more about Miss Hess. After school, I do what I wanted to do yesterday but couldn't because of the turn of events. I stalked Miss Hess, following behind her car as she drove home. So I discovered where she lives. My next plan is to break into her home. It's simple. That day, I pretend to be sick. My parents call the school to inform them I won't be coming. After my parents go out to their work, I also take a step out. By this time, I know Miss Hess will be at school and won't be back till later in the afternoon. I go to her home. Breaking in was pretty easy. I had taken some lessons. Her home didn't look ominous one bit. It was warm and really cozy. I checked the rooms. I don't want to leave a clue that someone broke into the home, so I carefully searched the cabinets and wardrobes without scattering anything or putting anything out of place. I searched the kitchen too. From the kitchen, there's an archway leading to a small compartment. The compartment's like a store for kitchen utensils. Some spoons and forks are hanging on the wall. I can count 3 pots without lids on the ground. There's a knife on the small slab serving as a table in the store. Now, something feels particularly off with this room. It seems completely out of sync with the rest of the home. Something is screaming at me to get out and run far away from here without ever turning back. But as I keep observing the room, I hear a click under my feet. Then the door begins to open up. I step back into the kitchen as the hole in the ground seems to fill the entire floor of the store. When the hole stops, I approach it. There's a stairway leading down into a basement. Without thinking twice, like a fool looking for death, I climbed down into the basement. What's on my mind is, Miss Hess won't be back till late, so I still have time. At the end of the stairway, I open up a door and enter a room. It feels like I'm in a dungeon. There's a man tied up at the center of the room. He looks like he hasn't eaten for days. "Who are you?" he snarls at me. He sounds like a beast. "Are you with that vile woman?" "She put me here," the man says. Then he begins to cry. "She's not to be trusted. She's pure evil. She killed all of them." "All of who?" I ask, confused, scared. "The girl. She was here much earlier, but that bitch got her." "What girl?" I nearly yelled. "She tried to save me. There's no hope for me anymore." The man's crying bitterly. "Boy, save yourself. Get out now." I move closer to the man. "Which girl?" I ask him. "I think the bitch took her in the next room. Boy, I'm telling you, you need to go now." I find a door in the room. The door must lead to another room, which this man speaks of. I try to open it, but it's locked. I quickly run up the stairs. I have a deathly feeling Miss Hess is coming. I run out of the house, making sure to close all the doors, leaving everything the way I met them. I'll come back soon with the appropriate tools to break into that room. When I get home, I pick up my phone, deciding that I should at least tell Jessica. I feel that she'll be of great help. When I turn on the phone, I see a message. It's from Jessica. It reads, "You won't believe what I found. Call me." My heart skips. What does this mean? I don't want to consider it, but the thought plagues me. I call Jessica's number. Her phone's dead. What if Jessica had been to Miss Hess's house? What if she's the girl in the other room? Why would she be in Miss Hess's house? Perhaps she herself was excited at the idea of stalking Miss Hess. Perhaps she stalked the woman and found her house. Perhaps she decided to break into the house too, for whatever crazy reason. I can't say. I don't know how her mind works, that Jessica. My entire world is becoming a nightmare. Why did I draw an evil Miss Hess? The next day, Jessica is absent from school. Miss Hess came around to teach us biology. She looks as innocent as ever. She did not look like someone with a dying man in her basement. God knows how many people she's killed in that basement. My God, her smile. She smiles, and it looks like she's entirely different from the psycho who stabbed Principal Adam to death in the parking lot. What is this woman? I'm freaking out, but I try to contain myself. I'm so worried about Jessica. The new principal walks into our classroom. She says she has an announcement to make. Jessica Lane won't be attending school here anymore. Her family has moved out of the country. It was impromptu and couldn't be helped. At the moment, none of you might be able to reach her. I'm telling you this so you don't worry about her, the principal says. And all the while, Miss Hess is smiling. It's a gentle, pretty smile, but I have a feeling there's evil behind that smile. I have a terrible feeling about everything the principal just said. Of course, no one in the class cares about Jessica. As if he was reading my mind, Brian even says, "No one cares about Jessica." The class begins to laugh. Douchebags. The principal leaves. Miss Hess continues her class. I swear, I will get to the bottom of this. I plan for another break-in. This time, there's no one in the room in the basement. Miss Hess must have killed the man. I came with my tools, so I get to work on the door in that room leading to the next room. In a matter of minutes, I've broken into the door. I enter. There's no one there. I sigh, kind of relieved. Then I realize, what if Miss Hess has taken care of Jessica like the other man in that room? While I'm on that thought, I hear a sound behind me. "Ted?" The voice turns my blood into ice. It's the sweet, terrifying voice of Miss Hess. I hear her sigh. "You shouldn't break into people's houses, Ted," she said. Unfortunately, this story is already over, but you can help us extremely if you click in the middle now and follow our playlist. Keep listening to all our stories now to fall asleep. Click in the middle now. Have fun.